Information alone rarely changes people's minds or convinces them. Just giving someone facts and expecting them to make logical choices often doesn't work. Instead, information must be presented in a way that connects to human psychology or taps into key decision-making triggers. That's what makes it persuasive. Books that question authority or expose the truth often get banned. 1984 by George Orwell was one of them. Some places banned it because they thought it supported communism, while others banned it because they thought it was against communism. Orwell wrote the book to reveal the political tricks of his time, but it's about much more than that. It explores deep ideas about power, control, freedom, and what happens when people lose hope. The book explains the secrets of influence and control. It doesn't contain magic spells or ancient rituals, just a clear and unsettling explanation of how thoughts can be shaped, behaviors controlled, and entire societies guided as easily as a ship on calm waters. This knowledge is both a weapon and a shield, giving power to those who understand it, while also helping others protect themselves from manipulation. A hidden guide to control. Most people who come across this book don't realize its significance. But those who do, leaders, thinkers, and even tyrants, know that its lessons can shape the future of nations. If you've ever wondered how some figures seem to control entire populations, or why certain ideas spread so quickly, this book may hold the answers. However, this knowledge is dangerous. It can expose hidden manipulations or tempt readers into using its power for their own gain. To understand why this book is so powerful, we first need to grasp what it teaches about human nature. The author, George Orwell, was an expert in human behavior. He understood that people are influenced not by force, but by their desires, fears, and social pressures. True control is not about loud commands, but subtle whispers that guide decisions without people realizing it. This idea aligns with the theories of philosopher Michel Foucault, who studied power and control. He argued that the most effective power is not direct oppression, but quiet influence, systems that shape behavior so that people regulate themselves without needing strict rules or punishments. In his book, Discipline and Punish, Foucault explains how institutions maintain control not by force, but by making people feel like they are being watched and judged, leading them to act a certain way on their own. The power of subtle influence. This teaching is similar to the story of the wind and the sun. In the fable, the wind tries to force a traveler to remove his cloak, but the traveler just holds onto it tighter. The sun, however, simply shines warmly, making the traveler remove his cloak willingly. The book explains that influence works the same way. Subtle persuasion is far more effective than force. One of its most controversial lessons is about the psychology of crowds. People think and behave differently when they are in groups. Logic and reason fade, replaced by emotion and instinct. A crowd can be influenced by something as simple as a word, a symbol, or a song. This knowledge has been used by both revolutionaries and manipulators throughout history. At first, this might seem obvious. We all know that powerful speeches and symbols have influenced people throughout history. But what makes this book so dangerous is that it reveals the precise mechanics behind it, the hidden psychological triggers that control group behavior. These are not just theories, they are tested methods that have been refined over time. The ethics of influence. Imagine someone who knows exactly how to phrase something so that it feels true, even if it isn't. Picture a person who can appeal to your deepest desires without you realizing it. This kind of mastery over influence can be used for good, to inspire and uplift, or for harm, to manipulate and exploit. This is the ethical dilemma at the heart of the book. The philosopher Søren Kierkegaard once warned about the dangers of despair, describing it as a silent sickness that makes people vulnerable. When people are lost, uncertain, or afraid, they look for guidance, sometimes from those who do not have their best interests at heart. The book states, "It is not the strong who seek leaders, but the weary, the wandering, and the unsure." This insight has massive consequences. If you understand what makes someone feel lost or hopeless, you can control their decisions. Politicians, advertisers, and even religious leaders have used this principle to attract followers and spread ideas. The book exposes the psychological tricks that surround us every day, manipulations we often don't even notice. However, the book doesn't just expose how others might influence us, it also forces us to question our own choices. Are we really in control of our decisions, or have we been subtly guided without realizing it? This is the question that makes the book so controversial. It challenges the idea that we are independent thinkers, and instead reveals the hidden strings that control our actions, the hidden law of influence. Despite its potential dangers, the book also offers a way to resist manipulation. By understanding how influence works, we can recognize when we are being manipulated. Like the hero Odysseus tying himself to the mast to resist the siren's song, we can learn to protect ourselves from being unconsciously swayed. Knowledge of influence is both a tool and a shield, allowing us to navigate a world where persuasion is everywhere. There is an unwritten law that shapes power, determining who rises, who follows, and who is forgotten. This hidden law of influence is not taught in schools, yet it controls success, leadership, and social movements. Those who understand it hold a power greater than money or brute force. Influence is not about commanding people. It's about leading them to make choices on their own, while subtly guiding them toward a desired outcome. The most powerful leaders in history did not control people directly. They inspired and guided them in ways that felt natural. This law is built on a simple but unsettling truth. Perception is reality. People don't follow what is necessarily true. They follow what they believe to be true. If an idea is repeated enough, reinforced by authority, wrapped in emotion, and validated by a crowd, it becomes unquestionable. It doesn't matter whether it's real or an illusion. What matters is that people believe it. Truth and perspective. The philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche introduced the idea of perspectivism, which argues that truth is not absolute. Instead, what people consider to be true depends on their perspective, experiences, and the beliefs they have been taught. Many people assume that truth is fixed and objective, like a scientific fact. However, Nietzsche argued that much of what we call truth is simply an idea that has been accepted because it has been repeated and reinforced by those in power. For example, different societies throughout history have had completely different beliefs about morality, religion, and science. What was considered true in one era was seen as false in another. This shows that truth is not universal, but shaped by perspective and power. Nietzsche also believed that people don't see reality as it truly is. Instead, they interpret it based on their experiences, emotions, and biases. Every culture, language, and belief system creates its own version of truth. Take, for example, the idea of good and evil. In one culture, bravery and aggression might be seen as virtues, while in another, peace and humility might be more valued. These are not absolute truths, but cultural interpretations. The power behind truth. Nietzsche argued that truth is shaped by those in power. Governments, religious institutions, and media organizations influence what is accepted as truth. Over time, their version of truth becomes dominant, not necessarily because it is correct, but because it is repeated and reinforced. For example, in medieval Europe, the Church declared that the Earth was the center of the universe. Anyone who questioned this was punished. This belief lasted for centuries, not because it was scientifically accurate, but because the Church had the power to enforce it. Even today, political and media institutions shape public opinion. They control which ideas are spread, which facts are emphasized, and which beliefs become accepted as truth. In a world where perception creates reality, the ability to shape beliefs is the greatest power of all. People understand reality differently based on where they get their information. This shows how power shapes what people believe to be true. Nietzsche argued that truth is often determined by those who have the ability to spread their version of reality, not necessarily by what is truly real. Nietzsche introduced the idea of the will to power, which means that all living things have a natural drive to grow, expand, and assert themselves. He believed that people and societies do not search for truth just to find it. Instead, they seek truths that help them gain power, survive, and succeed. For example, religions create moral rules that benefit their followers and keep them united. Governments promote certain values to maintain order and control. Individuals accept beliefs that justify their desires and actions. Instead of being neutral seekers of truth, people often choose beliefs that serve their own interests. This means that many of the truths we hold are not really about discovering reality. They are about reinforcing what makes us feel powerful, safe, or successful. Nietzsche's idea of perspectivism is especially relevant today. With the rise of social media, political divisions, and different worldviews, people live in separate realities based on the information they consume. Two people can see the same event, but interpret it in completely different ways. His philosophy challenges us to ask, are the truths we believe really objective? Or have they been shaped by our culture and personal biases? Who benefits from the truths we are taught to accept? Are we truly searching for truth, or just looking for beliefs that support our desires and power? Truth is never neutral. It is always influenced by perspective, power, and human needs. Instead of blindly accepting what is presented as truth, Nietzsche encouraged critical thinking, questioning authority, and embracing the complexity of reality. The three pillars of influence. There are three main ways people are influenced. 1. Authority, the illusion of knowledge. People trust those they believe know more than them. Titles, uniforms, confidence, and certainty create the impression of expertise. The hidden rule is that perception is often more powerful than actual knowledge. A person who speaks with absolute confidence will be believed over someone who hesitates, even if the hesitant person is telling the truth. Throughout history, those who have mastered this skill have shaped societies. Religious leaders, politicians, and media figures do not always provide facts. Instead, they provide certainty. And certainty is often more appealing than the complicated and uncomfortable truth. The shortcut to the mind logic can convince people, but emotion moves them. People do not follow reason as much as they follow feelings. The most influential people in history understood this well. Instead of debating, they stirred up emotions. They made people feel pride, fear, anger, or hope. Emotions bypass the rational mind, creating immediate reactions before logic has a chance to step in. A simple phrase, a powerful image, or a repeated symbol can embed itself in the mind and influence action without resistance. Persuasion is not about making people think. It's about making them feel something so deeply that they act on instinct. The crowd. The power of the many-nothing influences belief more than seeing that others already believe it. People follow the crowd because being alone is scary. The hidden rule states that if an idea is presented as already accepted, it becomes self-sustaining. This is why mass movements gain power, why trends explode overnight, and why opinions suddenly change. It's not because people suddenly see the truth. It's because they see others believing, and they conform. The desire to belong is stronger than the desire to be right. Once you understand this rule, the world looks different. You begin to see how leaders manufacture beliefs, how brands create loyalty, and how ideologies spread like wildfire. Then comes the most unsettling realization. You have been influenced your entire life. Every opinion, every preference, every value you hold. How many of them are truly yours? How many were placed in your mind without you realizing it? The hidden hand of influence. There is an invisible force that shapes the world. It does not rule through violence or open control. Instead, it quietly guides thoughts, beliefs, and actions. Most people go through life unaware of it. They wake up, go to work, follow trends, and make choices, never realizing that much of what they do has already been decided for them. They believe they are thinking freely, but their thoughts have been carefully placed there over time. True control is most effective when people believe they are acting on their own free will. Consider a flock of sheep. If you put up a fence, they will try to escape. But if you remove the fence and train them to believe that crossing a certain line is dangerous, they will stay within their boundaries without needing a physical barrier. That is real control, not physical force, but mental confinement. This invisible force understands that people resist coercion, but accept control when it feels like their own choice. So choices are created for them, left or right, conservative or liberal. One brand or another, one ideology against the other. It always appears as two opposing sides. But step back far enough and it becomes clear. Both sides lead to the same place. This system works because people crave structure. They want to belong. They want to feel certain about what is right and wrong. They want a sense of purpose. And so they accept the narratives given to them. When a belief is repeated enough times, it stops being questioned. It becomes reality. Those who control these beliefs do not seek attention. True power works best when it is invisible. A single idea, planted in the right mind, can spread like wildfire. A single image, symbol, or phrase can shift the course of nations, not through laws or force, but by shaping perception itself. Have you ever wondered why some stories are told over and over while others disappear? Why do certain ideas gain popularity while others are erased? Why does history seem to repeat itself, yet no one notices? It is because this hidden force ensures that only the right stories remain, only the right ideas spread, and only the right kind of opposition exists, the kind that ultimately changes nothing. Waking up from the illusion. What happens when someone sees the pattern, when they step outside the illusion and start questioning? At first, nothing seems to change. The world continues as before. But over time, they start noticing details, the repetition, the predictability of events, the manipulation. They begin to see the hidden hand at work. Then, the most dangerous thought of all enters their mind. What if everything I have ever believed was given to me? That is the moment true awareness begins. That is when the invisible walls start to appear. That is when a person, after a lifetime of being guided, starts to think for themselves. This hidden force does not fear opposition. It thrives on it. What it truly fears is awareness. Because once people see the illusion, it starts to crack. Those who master influence do not need force or arguments. They only need to shape what people believe is true. And the rest happens naturally. The hidden laws of influence are powerful, but they are not unbreakable. Once you see how they work, you become resistant to them. The spell loses its grip. You start questioning everything, tracing ideas back to their source and recognizing when you are being manipulated. But this is not an easy path. Most people do not want to see the strings pulling their thoughts. They prefer to believe they are in control, even when they are not. The truth is uncomfortable, so many choose to remain asleep. Yet for those who truly seek freedom, understanding the hidden laws of influence is the key. It is both a weapon and a shield. A weapon because knowing how influence works allows you to use it, and a shield because once you recognize it, you cannot be controlled in the same way again. But you may wonder, what is the most powerful persuasion technique? The answer is words. Words shape reality. The most dangerous kind of influence is the one that goes unnoticed. A single sentence can change an entire belief system. That is why those in power have always feared words, because words have started revolutions. Words have shaped history. They have built and destroyed empires, inspired faith, and led to wars. They have turned ordinary people into legends and erased the names of kings from memory. A book from 1895 reveals the shocking truth about words. They do not just describe reality, they create it. This idea is ancient. Many traditions have understood the power of language. In the Bible, the book of Genesis says that when God said, "Let there be light," light came into existence. This means the world itself was created through words. In Hindu philosophy, the sacred sound Om is believed to be the vibration that started the universe. This suggests that sound, speech, and creation are deeply connected. These examples show that words are not just tools for communication, they shape the world around us. Even outside religion, we see this every day. Words do not simply describe things, they influence actions, shape emotions, and form beliefs. A single spoken idea can spread rapidly. Revolutions and social movements often begin with just a few words, whether a call to action, a speech, or even a rumor. When something is repeated enough, people start to believe it, even if it is false. Propaganda works like this. Governments, media, and leaders use repeated messages to control public perception. History is full of examples where repeated lies became accepted truths, leading people to believe harmful ideas. A single phrase can change a person's life. Encouraging words can give someone confidence to chase their dreams, while insults can damage self-esteem for years. A well-timed piece of advice can alter a person's future. Think about moments when words deeply affected you. Perhaps a teacher's praise gave you courage, or a harsh comment made you doubt yourself. This book explains the secret behind the power of words. Influence is not about what is said, but how it is said. The way words are arranged, the rhythm of speech, and even pauses between words all play a role. True persuasion does not convince the rational mind. It bypasses it, planting ideas directly into the subconscious. Over time, these ideas grow unnoticed until they feel like our own thoughts. The most powerful speeches in history were not detailed logical arguments. They were emotional experiences. Martin Luther King Jr. did not say, "I have a 5-step plan for policy change." He said, "I have a dream." His words created an image so strong that people could not help but see it too. This book reveals that the human mind does not think in words. It thinks in images. Whoever controls the images controls the beliefs. This explains why propaganda is effective, why slogans stick in our minds, and why entire populations can be convinced of something, even if it is not logical. The book teaches that if you can craft the right message, short, emotional, and easy to remember, you can make people believe anything. But this knowledge has a dark side. If words shape reality, then those who control words control perception. This is why regimes burn books. This is why rulers rewrite history. This is why certain ideas are banned while others are promoted. The book explains that the battle for power is not fought with weapons. It is fought with narratives. Change the story and you change the world. One of the most effective ways to manipulate society is not to hide the truth, but to drown it in noise. If people hear too many conflicting messages, they become confused and stop questioning anything. A tired, overwhelmed mind does not resist, it simply obeys. This tactic has been used throughout history. Before Rome fell, misinformation spread widely. Totalitarian regimes have always rewritten history. Even today, in the modern world, information is used as a weapon. The book predicted this long before mass media existed. It warned that when people are overwhelmed by too much information, they cling to whatever message makes them feel safe, even if it is a lie. But there is a way to protect yourself. This book does not just teach how to manipulate, it teaches how to break free. The key to resisting influence is not to fight it directly, but to recognize it. Have you ever suddenly realized that a speech, an ad, or a conversation felt too perfect, like it was designed to make you feel a certain way? That feeling is awareness, and awareness is the one thing manipulation cannot survive. True freedom comes not from rejecting all influence, but from understanding it. It means questioning not just what is being said, but how it is being said. Most of what we think are our choices are not real choices. They are illusions. Imagine you walk into a store and pick between two nearly identical products. Did you truly decide, or was your choice shaped by advertisements, colors, and subtle cues meant to guide you? True influence does not force people. It makes them believe they are acting freely, even when every step was planned for them. This technique has shaped politics, business, and religion for centuries. The illusion of choice is the most powerful control tool because people who think they are free will defend their decisions, even if they were never truly theirs. History is full of examples of this. In the biblical story of the prodigal son, the younger son demands his inheritance, leaves home, and wastes everything. When he returns, he thinks he is choosing to seek forgiveness. But was this truly his decision? Or was his path inevitable from the start? The same thing happens in society. People believe they have choices, but every option leads to the same place. The book is feared because it reveals that control is not just about force, it is about shaping perception. Governments control not just through laws, but by shaping what people believe is true. Businesses create desires for things people do not need. Ideologies spread not by logic, but by controlling how debates happen. Once you see this, you cannot unsee it. Have you noticed how the same debates never seem to end? The same conflicts repeat, generation after generation. This is intentional. If people are busy fighting over small differences, they will never focus on those who hold true power. This method is ancient. The Romans called it divide and rule. Keep people focused on their differences, and they will never unite against those in control. This tactic is everywhere, in politics, business, and even religion. It is not about discovering truth, it is about maintaining power. But the book does not just expose the problem, it offers a way out. The first step is awareness. The moment you question the choices given to you, the illusion weakens. The second step is distance. True freedom comes from stepping outside the system, not rejecting it, but observing it from a place of clarity. However, this knowledge is dangerous. Those who recognize the system for what it is are often silenced or labeled as threats. Power does not fear resistance, it fears awareness. The strongest force in the world is not money or armies, it is belief. The greatest empires were built on ideas, not just weapons. People fight for their country, die for their faith, and protect their traditions, not because they are forced to, but because they believe in them. Belief is the ultimate chain. A person physically locked up will fight for freedom. But a person who believes they are free will never rebel, even if they are controlled. The book does not tell you what to do with this knowledge. It cannot, because true freedom cannot be given. It must be taken. And that is why those who read it disappear. Not because they are silenced, but because they leave. They stop playing the game. They step outside of control. The book hints at those who have done this before: the mystics, the erased thinkers, the revolutionaries who did not fight but simply walked away. History does not remember them because they did not follow the rules of belief. The most dangerous knowledge does not destroy, it frees. And once you are free, there is no turning back. The last page of the book is blank, because the final chapter is yours to write.